to today's class. This is the CRA role in risk-based monitoring, strategies for effective remote monitoring. Throughout the course, I'll be asking a few questions of you. Feel free to chat in your responses. Again, we can verbally discuss it, or at some points I may just be asking you for a green check if you have any further questions, or if you agree, or a red X if you have a comment, or if it's a true-false question, I'll ask you for green checks and red X's. So again, just looking for some interaction from everybody. Again, because today I'm really here for you, and I want to make sure that I'm addressing this topic in a capacity that is useful for you to apply to daily approaches on your studies. So with that said, a little bit about my background. I've been in the industry now for well over 18 years, so probably 20 plus something years. And I've been in a number of different roles. So I've worked as a study coordinator, as a CRA, a project manager. I still am working quite a bit in quality assurance. I've been a director of clinical operations, a trainer, certainly, and I only do the training piece part-time because I still continue to work in other capacities just to, again, keep myself very, very current on what is going on in the industry, on current schools of thought, and really focus on very, very practical applications. So I'm currently working with an organization that is implementing risk-based monitoring across their senior leadership. And they're really looking at it with an intent towards the original guidances in terms of this not just being about monitoring, but about it being a quality approach, really looking at quality by design from the protocol on up. And then that would filter into what we actually do with our monitors, our CRAs, our sites, and how we then communicate what's needed. So again, looking to apply very practical aspects to our course today. So just so I have a sense of who's in the audience, I know some of you are in large groups, so feel free to chat in a little bit more. But if you don't mind just typing in the letters that best apply to who's in the audience. Great, I have an A and a C, so project managers, CRAs, and lead CRAs. I have more CRAs and lead CRAs in my second group. Perfect, and my third group is also primarily CRAs and lead CRAs, good. So very near and dear to my heart, as that's really probably where I spent the majority of my career and still interact quite a bit with CRAs in terms of training, management, and developing programs. Learning objectives for today: describe approaches and techniques for remote data review, explain techniques for query writing to ensure clear communication of issues, and implement strategies to identify problem areas and how to maximize time on site following remote monitoring. So some questions for you, again, just to see where you're at in this process. We'll talk about what is really the intent behind all these guidance documents that have come out lately from the FDA, the EMA, from Japan, and then I'll also certainly touch on ICH GCP, E6 Revision 2, R2, and talk about some of the changes there in terms of expectations with sponsors. But what I'm curious to know is how many of you have applied the concept of risk-based monitoring to studies you're currently conducting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clear the chat, and you could just give me a little green check for this first one. So how many of you applied the concept of risk-based monitoring to studies you're conducting, including reduced source document verification? Okay, so a few of you in the group. So I'm going to clear the chat again. Have you already been doing this for years? And if so, just let me know how many you've already been doing this for. Great. So again, we have a group that's been applying this already for a couple of years. Have you just started with implementing some RBM approaches? So I know there's one party I haven't heard from, so I'm curious if you've started or if you haven't at all. So for that last one, perfect. So it sounds like you're just now looking at how to do it. Great. So we have a few folks who've put this into practice and a few folks who are looking at how to do it because it's not easy. So as we move through today's class, let's first start with talking about approaches and techniques for remote data review. So currently still and traditionally, there's just a very, very broad range of practices, and that is probably the biggest challenge that we face is with the way that these guidance documents have been written, it isn't crystal clear what's really expected or how to do it. We're told that we should apply smarter, faster, better techniques to focus on what matters most. So the FDA came out with their guidance document, as did the EMA in 2013. So we're now well past 5 years into this guidance, into this thought process. And what I'll say is that it still wasn't new even in 2013. Many organizations had already been applying these proactive measures because we're all adverse to risk. We're all adverse to challenges that are going to cause problems. So as any good company should and does, we already have risk management plans. We already have thought into terms of what could go wrong. But I think the biggest challenge that we face as an industry is that we often only focus on enrollment or what really could go wrong in the beginning of the study.